Hi everyone, welcome back to the Book Bakht channel. My name is Bakhtawar, I'm a Pakistani booktuber. I do bookcasts, book reviews, things like that. I've been missing a while and I've seen that a lot of new people have joined, a lot of new subscribers, and they're leaving me lovely comments. So I just want to thank everyone for that. I want to thank my old subscribers for supporting me so far. You people make me feel like this is a thing to do in life. Now I'd read The Fall about a couple of months ago, and obviously I'd sort of been chewing on it and thinking about it, and I decided to do a video sort of on the lines of the lessons you can get from The Fall. Yes, The Fall by Albert Camus. Not just the lessons, but also the lessons in human psychology, really, things you could apply in your life or not. I mean, people are hardly as interesting as the ones he puts forward. But so the premise of The Fall is basically, you know how sometimes you strike up a conversation with a complete stranger, you don't even know if you have anything in common or not, but you just end up telling them a lot more than you intend to. It's kind of like almost, I don't know, an unlikely but magical sort of occurrence. I think it happens a lot in hospital waiting rooms, in my experience. But anyway, in this case, it happens with the main character, Jean-Baptiste Clemence, sort of telling a stranger everything inside this shady bar in Amsterdam, and over the course of 3 days he confesses everything, things that he thinks led to his fall, his decline from an ideal set of circumstances, from being in the best of his game, so to speak. Now The Fall is actually one of the least understood, not that I necessarily get that, but I think it's one of the least understood, the least discussed of Camus' novels. I think he's most known for The Stranger. The Stranger, was it, or The Outsider? Something like that. Anyway, Clemence was a lawyer in Paris, and he describes Paris as sort of, the pinnacle of civilization almost. He kind of looks at it as a previous high that he had, something that was amazing and now it's been taken away. He describes Amsterdam as being, several steps down, as if somebody who was almost thrown out, they would end up in Amsterdam, something like that. He describes himself as a judge penitent. Now you may correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the phrase judge penitent, I'll have it on the screen, is something which is a phrase that first appeared in The Fall. I don't think that it actually exists anywhere else, but I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. So, judge penitent is, it kind of, in a way, it kind of describes the whole novel as well. It's sort of putting forward this paradox. Somebody who has a lot to repent for, but is also uniquely in a position to judge others somehow, which actually is the position that Jean-Baptiste Clemence finds. In fact, I'm just going to call him Clemence because it's too much effort. Now, as the story sort of starts off, you see that Clemence often, he has these high standards that he's holding everyone to, but you also, you kind of get suspicious of him that those standards they're incorrect, and he knows that they're incorrect and they're also irrelevant, but he keeps finding people short. So before he's ready to sort of tell the stranger everything, Clemence puts forward this kind of glorified narrative of how he was loved by everyone in Paris. He did all these works of charity. He was, admired by everyone, especially women. He was immensely popular. Everybody loved him. But as time goes by, again, you start thinking that there's a big part missing in what he's saying. There's this scene in the book of him helping a blind man cross the street, and after he does a little bow, almost as if there's a theatricality about it, like he's putting on a good show, which essentially you find out to be the crux of Clemence's character. He's putting on this false persona, this front to other people, but he's not that inside. But he's not like that inside. And then there's this overturning event, which I will get to, that kind of just crashes, that facade completely. While he kind of, he craves people's attention, he also he keeps putting them down. He calls them, he says, creatures of a single habit, or simple creatures, or whatever. You can find that he despises them. But more so than anything else, it is an extension of the way he despises himself, inherently. So obviously he's got all of these things. It's almost as if he's doing lateral thinking. He has multiple avenues open, in which he's operating on a lot of fronts. That's why essentially he's so fake, isn't he? He keeps referring, to the listener, the unidentified listener in the novel. He keeps referring to him as cher ami, my dear friend. But obviously he's not his dear friend. It made me think of people who sometimes get disgruntled by beggars on the street or something, they sort of, because maybe if they've been poor before, they kind of get angry at whoever is, in the same situation that they used to be in. So again, it's an extension it's actually what they hate about themselves more so than anything else. It reminds me of, I read somewhere that Rockefeller, who was one of the richest people in modern history, he used to hoard potatoes because he never had enough to eat as a child, so he never actually could let go of that mentality. that sort of insecurity almost. Clemence is very much like that. In his case, the quote from the book, people hasten to judge so as to not be judged themselves. So obviously the story is simple enough to understand. You see this false facade, there's a reason behind it, then you see the decline of the false facade. The pièce de résistance, however, is this event, this kind of, it's a, kind of a climactic event, turning point in Clemence's life. He's walking on the bridge one night and he sees this woman, she's sort of perched on the railing, but obviously on the wrong side. She's looking to jump, she's looking to kill herself. And there's this momentary lapse of time in which he can almost lurch forward and save her, or call out or scream, but instead he does nothing. And just moments later, she jumps and kills herself, and she drowns. And he hears the splashing of the water, and he goes to see, and it's almost as if she never existed. In a moment, she's gone. That event, although it was obviously not his fault, he didn't know the woman, but it never leaves him. And afterwards he starts questioning everything about his life. He starts questioning the things he held, he held dear, the things that he sort of held in high esteem, the people whose almost worship-like behavior he lived off of. And I think that sort of causes a fracture to take place, a fracture in his psyche. And after the event you see a sort of ripple effect. It poisons every area of his life. Nothing matters anymore. I think this sort of theme also takes from Camus' sort of tilt towards absurdist philosophy. Absurdism is this philosophical perspective which says that everything in the universe and life is essentially meaningless and purposeless, and there's no point trying hard for anything because nothing really matters in the end. But yet people do try, people do fight against that notion. Camus himself was, a sort of, semi-optimist sort of person. So, but however, you have to bear in mind when Camus wrote this, he wasn't really like himself. He's a lot more fearless in his other novels. If you read them, his mental outlook is a lot different. I think when he wrote this novel, he was allegedly he was really depressed when he wrote it. It was he'd begun cheating on his wife, and she tried to kill herself actually as a result of that. So he was battling all these issues and all these aspects of morality and conscience in a way that he'd never really done before. So you can see that all of these things were at the back of his mind, this kind of concept of man falling from grace, of man being reduced because of his own actions, and whether or not it matters in the grander scheme of things. So you can see that was on his mind. And ominously enough, Camus actually died a year after The Fall was published, quite unexpectedly in a car accident with his publisher. So there's a lot of it's very enigmatic. There's a lot of mystique surrounding The Fall in literary circles, And it also, when I was reading The Fall, I kept being, every time Clemence would come across an event which he describes as sort of tilting him towards the nothingness to which he eventually descends, it kept reminding me of, the climactic scene in The Picture of Dorian Gray. If you've read it, you probably know the one that I'm talking about. Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I'll have it. I'll write a caption on it. So what happens is, Dorian Gray is basically this beautiful, talented individual. He's loved by everybody, again, especially women, and he never ages. And all of his filth and corruption and age, the process of aging, is sort of captured in a painted portrait of him, which he hides in his attic, I think. Yes. So in the end, when he finally, after many years, he unveils that painting, he finds that his evil and corruption is so potent, it's so powerful that he has no other choice except to take a dagger and stab the painting, effectively stabbing himself and ending it. So in the end, perhaps, the corruption and the deceit sort of reaches a point where there's nothing to do with it but to destroy it. So you see Clemence, on obviously a lesser and less violent level, sort of come to the same conclusion. So Clemence, as I was reading this, you see that he is, it's almost a psychotherapist and patient relationship, except obviously the listener is a random customer of the bar. It's just a random person who becomes sort of like an acquaintance/friend in the 3 days that follow. But you see that Clemence is desperately trying to reach a state of catharsis. He loves to talk. He's very theatrical. He's got all these expressions. That if people were ever to look back, on us, if they were ever to study us at this point in time in the future, they would be like, people excel at nothing except reading newspapers or something like that. So you see that he's trying to reach a state of catharsis, but he's also desperately trying to avoid it. because again he doesn't want to. He's not fully ready to take responsibility for his own insincerity more so than anything else. His own falseness, his need to present himself a certain way, his need for the validation of others. Obviously, as he talks, he knows that he only did all those acts of charity, all that pro bono work, and as a lawyer, all that pro bono work just to elevate himself in the eyes of society. He knows he should have tried to save that girl. He knows that it was all just a show. He knows he probably should have felt the things inside that he so effortlessly portrayed on the outside. But yet he will never fully say that yes, this is what I should have done. I've let the time go by, but this is what I should have done. He never really. Except in the end, probably, I guess he reaches a kind of acceptance, but for a long time you see that he doesn't reach there. There's this quote which I bookmarked. He says, "On my own admission, I could live happily only on condition that all the individuals on earth, or the greatest possible number, were turned toward me eternally in suspense, devoid of independent life and ready to answer my call at any moment, doomed in short to sterility until the day I should deign to favor them." So he really needs people. He's almost, he's desperate, isn't he? He's very needy. None of those are really very impressive words, but that's what he is. He thinks of faking his own death at one point, only to realize that he thinks of faking his death to punish other people, as if he's a gift that's been taken away. Then he realizes that no one would feel punished and that he actually has no friends and that no one would care. So a great part of him was very keen to avoid rejection, to sort of reject others before they have a chance to reject him. And I think wiser people than Camus would understand that true control is only controlling yourself and not really controlling others. And also, people who've reached a certain level of consciousness, they realize that they can't change anyone and that they can't ever build a solid footing on acceptance and love and admiration gained from other people. And that there are essential limitations in every human being's existence. They may differ, of course, across people, but there are essential limitations which cannot be surpassed. And even freedom is not possible without limitation or rules, so to speak. Obviously, there's a lot to be said about The Fall. It's a really short read. I really recommend that you pick it up. In Pakistan, Readings does a very cost-effective copy. I'm really obsessed with cost-effective measures, aren't I? It's just, I want people, because often I come across people who are not willing to invest in books. So that's why I'm always working the cost-effective angle, that it's, you gain so much, and it's so, and to the people who do read, to the people who are watching, who've searched this out, people who are subscribed, you don't even realize how rare you are. Never give this up, never give up this one thing among many others, I'm sure, that makes you so different from other people, Never stop reading, never stop supporting these videos that I do, because a lot of these, please feel free to comment below. I learn so much from comments that you people make. Leave your insights. This is a safe place for book lovers. So make sure that if you've read this, share your insights. If you want to add something, none of my videos are meant to be comprehensive lectures. They're more so just food for thought. There's a lot of things that I come across, and I just realized that if I was to put all of them in a video, it would be too, laborious. My main aim, if you can call it that, I don't know if I should even be aiming for things, but my main aim is just to get people to pick this up, to come to their own conclusions, So definitely happy belated New Year, because I'm a bit late, and I'm going to try to be more regular, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch. See you next time.